Coming to you completely, entirely pre-recorded from the Garage of Solitude, I'm Mario Francisco Robles.
I'm Brett Miro. Put on your capes and wipe your ass, because it's episode 153 of the Fanboy Podcast.
Yes, it is. Brett, what have you been watching or playing this week?
Well, I think I'm just going to keep it short, because I got one thing, and it's a real damn good thing this week, all right?
Oh.
And it happened today, the day that we are recording this podcast.
A good thing happened today?
Okay, a good thing happened today. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge, the new nostalgia-fueled throwback beat-em-up video game launched today. And if you are an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, it's free and included.
Oh,
and if
it's
you're
an
not,
Xbox thing.
it's on every system though.
Oh.
And if you are going to buy it, I think it's like $22.50. And let me tell you, I played the first 5 levels.
Yeah.
And it's fucking awesome.
Like, I need that in my life.
If you're like a male over 30, this is like, it's the best thing ever. Like, everyone was just talking about it today on Twitter. Everyone's like, why do I have a job? Why can't I just be playing this right now?
Yeah.
So I got home. I used my Xbox Game Pass app to download it to my console. And then when I got home, it was ready to go. So quick little rundown. So basically, this is a 2D side-scroller beat 'em up. You know, like the old Ninja Turtle games, heavily inspired by the original arcade game and Turtles in Time, which was in the arcade and on Super Nintendo. And let me tell you, there is so much love in this game and nostalgia and Easter eggs, and it's phenomenal. It's a 2D sprite style. The animation is gorgeous and beautiful. All of the voices are done by the original animated TV show voice cast. They did a great animated intro for it as well with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song. April and Splinter are also playable characters in addition to the Turtles, and they announced that as a secret unlockable character, Casey Jones is included in there. It includes online co-op and couch co-op, and you can play up to 6 players at one time.
Is there cross-platform play?
There is not cross-platform, which kind of blows. So that's the only thing that stinks. But I mean, it is awesome. Another really cool thing, Wu-Tang recorded a song, like an awesome, like really great beat about the Ninja Turtles, and it's in the game. Also, they took old tracks from the old games and remixed them. So there's some of those Turtles in Time like songs that were playing in the background in the arcade game. There's new music that's heavily inspired. Everything about this game is perfect. Like, just from, even like the voices are a little bit like down sampled, so they sound a little shittier than they should. But it's awesome. It has it just like a little extra modern touches and flourishes. And what I'll say too is they did it's not as frustrating as some of the, or as button mashy necessarily as the old games. So you're still tapping the button, beating people up. But they because there's more buttons on the controllers now, they just like made everything a lot better. Like, every turtle has like a attack that is kind of like a shoryuken. It like rises up and hits people in the air. It's easier to execute. They've added like these cool special meters that build up, and then you can use them, once your meter hits. There's like leveling up, so you upgrade your hit points, you unlock new abilities and skills, and there's a little more depth to the combat. It's a little more skill based. You can actually dodge now. There's not really a lot of like frustrating like attacks. There's definitely a little more like I said, it's more skill based. It's not just bash the buttons and then you get hit by like an unfair move. So they did all the right little tweaks, and it feels just like a modern, released in 2022 old school style brawler. It's I can't stop raving about it. Like I said, I played like 5 levels, and I think there's like 16 total, and there's a story mode. So there's collectibles, there's all these level challenges, so there's a lot of replayability. And then also, you can like upgrade and level up each turtle. There's also an arcade mode, which is just like level to level, none of the little world map stuff, no collectibles. And I think all the abilities are unlocked from the get-go, and you can just kind of keep replaying that and plow through. I've heard it's about maybe like 2 hours to beat total. So it's just something you can just keep running, having fun with your friends. And or
your son, because it's funny you mentioned this. A few months back, my son Sebastian and we got on a kick of playing those kind of old school 2D beat 'em ups. We were doing Double Dragon. We were doing Final Fight and Streets of Rage. We were doing all these kinds of ones with that style. And we were obsessed with those. And I remember at the time thinking it would be so cool if those old Ninja Turtle games were available. but I know that like with the licensing and Konami and Ninja, I wasn't sure if we ever could. But now to hear this, now I'm going to be buying that immediately.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You guys will enjoy the hell out of it. It's awesome.
Yeah. And all right, so that's what you've been playing. Have you been watching anything interesting aside from what we're going to talk about at the end of this episode?
Yeah, I don't think I've checked out anything like new other than like stuff I addressed last week and the stuff we're going to talk about in the show. So I figure we'll just stick to that.
Got it. Well, for me, look, my schedule's been a little bit crazy, so I haven't had a ton of viewing time, but I have actually been sneaking in some stuff. So I finally dove into the current season of Barry on HBO. I love me some Bill Hader. I love me Henry Winkler. I mean, that series, Barry, is excellent. I don't know if have you had a chance to check it out?
I think Jesse and I had watched it, but I think we might have dropped off somewhere midway or towards the end of season 2. I don't think we finished it. So I need to go back and maybe catch up. But it's something I actually do plan to do. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Because season 3 is crazy. Lots of crazy twists, lots of things that subvert your expectations to about what the show is and how we feel about our protagonist. And Barry's been season 3 has been fire. I also watched the 4-part miniseries that just hit Netflix called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. It's a documentary series on Warren Jeffs and the fundamentalist church of whatever, Latter-day Saints. I don't know what they're called, but some crazy polygamist cult. And I'm into cult documentaries. I'm fascinated by how these people are able to, fool all these people into thinking they know the secrets of life and how people just like hand over their freedoms to these lunatics. And, I've always been fascinated by cults. So Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey perfectly hit the spot on that. When
my friend keeps telling me to keep sweet and texting me that, and I have no idea what he's talking about, and it sounds so creepy. And now I have to watch the documentary.
Now you have to. You really do. But also then in terms of gaming, kind of bringing it back to playing games with my son, I'm happy to report that since we last recorded, my son and I have played and defeated Link's Awakening, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch. And that was
the remake,
cool.
Right?
The remake. Yes. And
Very
me
neat.
And my son, we played through the whole thing together. He beat the final bosses and the final dungeon by himself. I just kind of stood back and gave him pointers.
Awesome.
It was very, very satisfying. It was very cool. And to have my son beat a Zelda game and roll credits at the end, I was like, good for you. Way to go. Now you're off to the races. Now you're ready to do some real gaming, So Link's Awakening was a thing. And now we've started the HD remaster of Skyward Sword, which I know that's like your favorite story.
So, story-wise, it's my favorite Zelda story. I know a lot of people are really sour on that game, but I really like the story-wise. But yeah, I know I understand gameplays-wise, it's a little bit of a detour. And then if you go and play Breath of the Wild now, it feels like so restrictive compared to how free Breath of the Wild. The story is top.
Yes. So we started that 2 nights ago, and that's probably going to take us a while to get through. But so that's what I'm watching. That's what I'm playing. And now let's go ahead and dive into some of the topics this week. And as we are often wont to do, we're going to kick things off proper with a Superman on film update for June 17th, 2023. Now, I wasn't here last week when you held down the fort by yourself, as you did so masterfully. And at the time, you offered the nothing burger of an update. And I've looked, and there still isn't really any kind of update. But the last scrap of information that I could find that I have yet to discuss here on this show came out in a Variety piece on June the 7th. And on June the 7th, Variety merely made mention of the fact that despite them having a script from Ta-Nehisi Coates, and despite that there having been some initial planning of a Superman reboot, as of right now, absolutely nothing has been finalized. So it's just still more of this idea that the Superman stuff is still very much in some kind of limbo, and there is no set plan, according to Variety, as of June the 7th of 2023. So unfortunately, that's your Superman on film update for this week. That right now, even with the script being turned in, even with high profile talent attached to it, like J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates, Warner Brothers has still not greenlit or finalized anything when it comes to seeing our Man of Steel up back on the screen. So there you go. But there is some interesting DC news in general that we have to mull over, Brett, because some crazy info has come out about Joker 2. All right. Now, first of all, before we even get into the news that's come out, how do you feel in general about there being a Joker 2? I just want to get your take on that before we get into the craziness that's come out this week about it.
Yeah, so I did actually go into that a bit last week when I was doing the solo podcast, but I was trying to keep it short. I'm a little mixed on it because of the way that the first film kind of left off with this kind of ambiguity, and there were a lot of questions and a lot of interpretations over whether how much of that film the things we saw were in Joker's head, if they actually happened, was he in the asylum all along? And by just in the nature of having a sequel, it seems like some of that mystery, maybe it won't, maybe they'll execute it some amazing way, but some of that mystery will maybe be taken away. Some things may be answered that maybe we didn't want answered and that made that movie so special. And I'm like, I always say, like, you don't always have to have a sequel. I'm a fan of standalone things, but at the same time, I mean, I feel like every director and every like big actor that's attached to something always says, well, we're not thinking of a sequel, but if the right script comes along and the right idea, then we'll do it. And it's like, or if the paycheck's big enough, I don't know, one or the other. So it looks like they had something here, and but now we have way more detail than I had last week. So.
Yeah. So let's get into the details because listen, I'll admit, similar to you, I was skeptical about the idea of there being any kind of sequel to Joker. To me, that was a special film. It was Todd Phillips really swinging for the fences, and it gave me a whole new level of respect for him because I enjoyed the Hangover movies. I enjoyed that one that he did, that road trip movie he did with Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis. I enjoy me some Todd Phillips, but with the Joker, now I suddenly realize, like, oh no, we have like there's an auteur in there. There's an actual artist with a vision, with something to say in there. And I know for a fact, he said it in interviews and whatnot. And I thought it was very clear to see too that, he essentially had a story and a statement he wanted to make. And he knew that he could make this story about just some random guy named Arthur Fleck, and a certain amount of people will watch it and be moved by it. But if he makes it about the Joker, now suddenly in this current landscape, now there's a lot more eyeballs and a lot more interested. So he kind of did a thing where it's like him and Joaquin Phoenix basically kind of had a type of story they want to tell. And it sounded like they almost retrofitted it to DC. So to make it more palatable, to make it sell. And look, it ended up being $1 billion movie. So clearly that thought really worked. It really connected. And but thinking of it that way, like, that made the thought of a sequel to me even more outlandish. Like, here is this very personal story that's very much about societal issues, and it's some sort of statement movie about how we treat people with mental illness and all this kind of stuff. How do you now go and now here comes part 2? And it's like, but here's the twist, right? Because we're getting Joker 2, the musical. That's the news now. And now it's got me wondering. I'm like, wait a minute. So maybe this isn't going to be exactly what we think. Maybe this is going to be another kind of weird left turn reinvention from Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, because the first one, I don't know if you noticed this, Brett, it was not a musical. So
there was the musicality, and music was a very important factor. Yes. So it's not that big of a stretch necessarily. But I also wonder, when they say it's a musical, I'm curious, like, how far are we going with that? Like, are there just a couple of like weird dreamy dance numbers and maybe a song or two, or are they really going like, is this going to be like In the Heights, the movie? I'm curious. But yes, continue on.
Well, one sort of clue where they might be going with that is the supposed co-star for Joaquin Phoenix in this one, because part of the big report that came out from Variety is not only is it going to be a musical, but Lady Gaga is apparently in early talks to play Harley Quinn in the Joker 2. Yeah. So that might imply that there's a fair amount of music in this too, because she's an amazing singer and artist, right. And you know, I don't think you hire a vocal powerhouse like Lady Gaga coming off of A Star Is Born and stuff like that. You know, I don't think you hire her for something that's only going to have like a number or two, you know?
Right.
So it really makes me wonder like where they're going to go with this. Are they going to true romance it somehow? Are they going to like, I want to see what they come up with. But having these insanely brilliant people in a room putting this together gets me excited. Having Todd Phillips with Joaquin Phoenix, bring in Lady Gaga now, and you're adding a whole new genre twist. I have a feeling that we're going to get another like art house Joker movie. So to me, right. That takes some of the sting off of it being a sequel. It's not like they're going to try to like repeat what worked in the first one. They're going to do some other great artistic twist on mythology, you know?
Yeah. So I would say from last week when I covered this, we were talking. I was talking a little bit about the title, which I'm assuming is the title. It's what's on the script, and it's I sound stupid saying anything in French, but it's Joker Folie à Deux, which is actually a psychiatric condition.
Like
It's actually a real condition where two people start to share in the same delusions. So if you actually listen to the episode, or for listeners that did listen or watch, you kind of hear me kind of like I was talking about it in real time, a little sour on it, like as I just mentioned.
But then you realized,
and then I said, well, when the first movie was making a statement certainly about mental health and how we treat people in this country. I mean, there's a direct correlation with that. So I said, well, what they have to. If they really said, we're not going to do this unless we have something to say, what is it going to be? And as I started like mulling it over and talking about it, I said, well, if you think in this country about, maybe, and I tried not to, I don't want to get political. I didn't really get very political. I tried not to, but you think about this country and just things that have been going on in recent years and, the delusions that some people kind of share in, without getting too specific. I said, maybe there is something there.
Shared delusions.
About shared delusions. Someone saying something over and over again, that may be total BS or a lie, and people that start to believe it and go along with it and think that is reality. So I was like, there's definitely something there that's very pertinent to today. So as I started talking about it, I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of getting excited for it. And then we got this bombshell like the day after that it's going to be a freaking musical. And I'm like, whoa, this is going to be nuts. But that might be a really interesting method of delivery.
And it's fascinating, too, because depending on the origin story they go with, if they go with the thing that it's Dr. Harleen Quinzel and she's a doctor at the sanitarium where he is, it'd be interesting if, like, as they're doing therapy together and working together, they start, something happens, like the chemistry between them where they start seeing, life through the same warped lens in a way,
Right.
But then again, a part of me doesn't even want them to revisit the sanitarium because then again, it's going to over-explain the first movie. I think this sequel would be great to just start the story in action and have the whole time you're wondering, is this because he broke out and this is what happened after that movie, or is this all in his head? Like, don't explain it to us at all. Just, Joker 2, whatever the name is, and just go into the story. And But yeah, so either way, having Lady Gaga suddenly pop up now as a secondary Harley Quinn. We have the Margot Robbie Harley Quinn established. Now we're going to have Academy Award nominated, Grammy Award winning Lady Gaga established as a second Harley Quinn. I mean, this is a pretty crazy time to be a fan. This is, the one thing that I'm not in love with about this news is that it looks like it's pulling Todd Phillips off of a project that I've been paying a lot of attention to in the background, in the periphery, because after Joker had all of its wild success, Todd Phillips announced that now he was going to turn his attention towards Hulk Hogan, and that he had cast Chris Hemsworth, Thor himself, to play the Hulkster, and it was going to be a period piece set in the 80s. And while it keeps getting referred to as a Hogan biopic, I don't think it's a biopic in the traditional sense of now we're going to watch him from, when he was born to today, and here's the whole ups and downs of his life. I don't think it's that kind of thing. From everything that was revealed about the film early on, I think we're going back 2 years now.
Right.
It was going to be set entirely in the 80s. It sounds like it's going to be more like about a moment in time.
Hulkamania.
Life. Yeah. And kind of like, and I wonder, like maybe taking a look at what was going on behind the scenes, or what it's like to suddenly be at the height of this hysteria, where you walk out and there's 87,000 people cheering for you. And, I feel like it looks like it's going to look at the Hulk Hogan experience from a different sort of distorted or another kind of viewpoint. Todd Phillips sounded like he had an interesting way he was going to approach it. So I'm like, it's Todd Phillips, it's Hulk Hogan, it's Chris Hemsworth. I'm in. Take my money,
Right.
But unfortunately, with this news that's come out about Joker 2's, getting the green light, and that being the focus for Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips, it has recently come to light that Hulk Hogan movie might be suffering because of that. In a conversation with comicbook.com, Chris Hemsworth was asked about what is the status of that. Has he started ripping any shirts yet, or any of that sort of stuff? And he basically admitted that, right now that is a ways off, that Todd Phillips is a brilliant director, but he's busy with other things, and he himself, Hemsworth, is busy with other things. And it seems like they're still trying to get on trying to finalize the script and get that going, but it's not kind of near yet. It sounds like that's still something that will manifest itself in 2 or 3 or 4 years. Who knows? It's a ways off. Sure. So for me, who was dying for his 80s period piece Hogan biopic from Todd Phillips, I'm gonna have to wait a few years apparently. So that's the one sort of sad part about this Joker 2 news. But I'm just curious for you too, I know you're not really like a wrestling fan per se, but does any of this project appeal to you? When you heard that there was going to be a Hogan thing, you were in?
When they announced this, I was all over it. I was like, and I loved that Chris. Yeah, no, that I would like. That was probably like, I mean, aside from like maybe the Attitude Era with like the peak of like The Rock and Steve Austin. I mean, I was a Hulkamaniac. I was Hulk Hogan for like Halloween when I was in like first grade. I had the shirt, the headband. I was obsessed. I had like a Hulk Hogan wrestling buddy. I was all in on Hulkamania. Which amazing. Is it's funny now because like by all accounts, like apparently he's a huge piece of shit in real life. I mean that's kind of the truth, but Terry was it Terry Bollea? By the way, I don't know if I ever asked you this total random detour on the podcast, but maybe some listeners remember it too. Do you remember it was on like, I think it was on like UPN 9, like Channel 9. That was at least Channel 9 on here on Cablevision in New York. The Hulk Hogan had a show called, I think, like Thunder in Paradise, where like he was just like some like bounty hunter or something with like a stealth like speedboat. And I used to watch it and like loved it because I was little and I didn't know that it was garbage television. But I'm like, is that streaming anywhere? Like, can I find that? Because I think we should just do like a watch party and just shit all over it. I think it's got to be the most garbage thing ever, and it's probably hysterical. So I don't know if anyone can point me or has found it somewhere. We gotta get a hold of it, and we'll do it.
I'm looking right now. Let's see.
Thunder
it looks
in Paradise.
Like you can rent it on like Amazon Prime, but it's not available anywhere.
It only had one season in '94.
What? It was a 1-season show? I didn't even think I realized that. Wow. Brutal. Oh, well, man. Yes, I do remember Thunder in Paradise. I remember it came from the producers of Baywatch, and they were trying to have like their own, like another international show they could sell into syndication like Baywatch. And they thought Thunder in Paradise was going to be that for them. And, well, they got you, Brett, and you're still talking about it all these years.
A DVD is only $16. I think maybe I'll just buy it. It's a 3-disc set.
Birthday, huh?
Maybe.
Good point. But all right, now we're going to move on. Actually, since we're taking detours anyway, with the WWE, I don't know if you heard the crazy news this week that Vince McMahon is being investigated by the board of directors at WWE. This was announced by the Wall Street Journal, that apparently he may have been using personal funds or WWE funds, whatever the case, using $3 million to cover up an affair. And the WWE board is looking into him and other allegations against John Laurinaitis, who's the vice president in charge of talent relations. So for any of you fans, any people out there who check out WWE or even just know about it or know of the McMahon family, I feel like they're like a staple in American pop culture, whether you follow wrestling or not. It looks like, some major things are moving and shaking over there, and it might be crazy to think, but there could be a time in the not too distant future where WWE moves on from Vince McMahon, the guy who founded the thing. If this
speaking of pieces of shit,
yes, I mean, like, him and Hogan deserve themselves.
He's pretty up there. Yeah. Honestly, Vince McMahon getting ousted would probably be the best thing for WWE right now. Honestly, anyway, like he's lost his way. I pay attention a little bit. There is some crossover with some other podcasts I listen to. Definitely that's the opinion of one individual. He's a real quick detour. Dan Reichert. Yeah. He's a pretty popular in like video games media. He left like video games media like 2 years ago to go work for WWE. And he was hired there to like make podcasts and do stuff. And he talked about he recently came back to games media now. He's going to be running Giant Bomb. And he mentioned like on another podcast, like, he was brought in to make podcasts and they were just like, did not like let him produce any new stuff. They were totally out of touch. The communication was horrible. And he, he also mentioned Hulk Hogan was a piece of shit. And then McMahon, he had some things and he said that like, he's like really holding that federation back. And that's why he loves like AEW. And like, while he was working at WWE, he went to 2 AEW events, but had to wear like a luchador mask because he was like, what if they cut to a close up and they go, oh, there's WWE employee Dan Reichert. And then he would like, because like he said he survived like in 2 years that he was there, multiple rounds of just like random layoffs, people getting fired. And like he just said they let, it's pretty well known. I think like Vince McMahon just fucking fires people left and right when they don't. Like, what do you want? So
the contracts are basically meaningless. You can be signed to a 3-year contract if Vince decides one morning he doesn't want you there. But
he's out of touch, obviously, just by the product, and like most fans, I think, kind of feel that way too. Anecdotally, like so, whatever.
I should just add, by the way, Riker is not being totally paranoid by wearing the luchador mask. There was a time in TNA wrestling where a WWE wrestler came in the audience just to watch. He was not there to try to tease that he was winning TNA, but TNA shot him, and they announced something on the announcers acknowledged that he was there. And he ended up getting fired from WWE because of that. So Riker wearing a luchador mask, it may sound crazy, but in the world of wrestling, with the way things go,
and he was like a behind the scenes guy, like not even like a guy on camera. You know what I mean? And he had to like make sure, because like, what if someone does a special move and I'm in like a close row and the camera cuts me and they see me? I'm screwed. So very, very funny. But
well, speaking of being screwed, we're getting a Wonder Man series on Disney Plus.
What a segue.
Yes. I don't know if you heard about this. The director of Shang-Chi, a movie I haven't seen, is developing a Wonder Man Marvel series for Disney Plus. And it sounds like, listen, they've been trying to get something going with Wonder Man for a while, right? There was the great fun stuff that James Gunn was trying to work into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with Nathan Fillion playing the role of Wonder Man, but that ultimately ended up on the cutting room floor.
Right.
But it seems like, he's been kind of in the pipeline in some way, shape, or form for a couple of years now. And it seems like this is, they finally found the approach they're going to go with. Wonder Man, there's a few different incarnations of him. He's got some very unique powers and manipulating molecules and teleportation and all kinds of weird, funky stuff. There's a version of Wonder Man where he's like a stunt man in Hollywood, and he's part of the West Coast Avengers. There's lots of interesting things, but apparently there's an expectation that the show might be a little meta. Might break the fourth wall, have some fun with the Hollywood setting and the fact that he's also a stunt man and whatever. So I don't know. When you heard that there was going to be Wonder Man series, did you get filled with excitement? Did you just get washed over with apathy? Or were you angry about it? How did you feel, Brett?
I was so angry. No, I just felt the meh wash over me. Like a big wave of meh. I went, oh, sorry, yeah, sure. Just make some more fucking content, I guess. I don't know. I could not care less. But, at the same time, that could be like the biggest surprise, right? It could just come out and just be like so charming and so cool. And like, I think if they maybe keep it like isolated from everything else, kind of like Moon Knight, and just let it be its own thing, it could be something really cool. But like when you say Wonder Man, I was just like, what the fuck is he made of bread?
There's something campy about it already. There's something cheeky and campy about it, just being Wonder Man. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on it. Let's see who they cast as the lead. They tend to get great actors. Marvel Studios has a pretty stellar track record of attracting really good actors for these roles. So listen, they got Oscar Isaac for Moon Knight. Let's see who they get for Wonder Man and kind of take it from there. Then now over on the still within the world of Marvel, but now in the Sony version of Marvel.
Yeah.
I know that you felt great about Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. And I know that you are ecstatic that there's going to be a Venom 3. But did you know that Tom Hardy is co-writing it?
I saw it. I saw the headline and I was like, okay. I mean, like, I don't, is Tom Hardy a good writer? Has he written any of his other projects? I don't know. Like, okay, sure. I mean, like, listen, the first movie really had like a cool tone. It wasn't perfect, but there was just something fun about it. Like, they really took a swing with it, and it was like corny in all the right ways. And, lame CG villain, and the third act was kind of like, eh. But then that second movie was just like real trash. I'm sorry. Like, I know that some people really liked it, but like a waste of Woody Harrelson. It was a CG crap fest at the end. It came out way too fast after the first one. It was totally a big rush job, and it didn't have the same charm or same like je ne sais quoi that the first one had. So maybe they can redeem themselves in the third one if there's something interesting going on. But I don't know if I don't think we have any details yet. If it's just going to be another it's another symbiote bad guy, I'm out.
Yeah, to me, what
this Sonyverse is just fucking whack, man. It's Morbid time.
It really makes no damn sense what they're doing with their Spider-Man-less Spider-Man universe. And in general, it got me thinking about I want to have a whole episode one of these coming weeks where we talk about the non-Marvel Studios Marvel on film.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
I think, there's a period there between 1999 and 2007 where there were a whole bunch of Marvel movies that came out, but this was during the era where there was no centralized Marvel Studios, where everyone, all the different studios just had their own rights to their own characters, and everything was just thrown around. So I'd love to talk about 99 through 2007 and even talk about these pitfalls that Sony's got going on now. All of the non-Marvel Studios Marvel movies deserve, I think, some of our attention. What do you think, Brad?
Sure.
But when it comes to Venom 3 and Tom Hardy, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Tom Hardy is known for being a writer. I think he's known for being a very charismatic actor. Where he's known for being kind of a shapeshifter. He's known for lots of things, but being some great screenwriter, that's not one of the things he's known for.
Yeah, so maybe he's learned some stuff doing all these films, and maybe he realized that Venom 2 was a real stinker, and he was like, I better just try to take the reins on this one and really make it something. I mean, listen, if he's doing 3 of these, I mean, listen, maybe the paycheck's really good, but I imagine like he could probably do whatever he wants. He's Tom Hardy. I think he's got like that cachet in Hollywood. So I mean, he must really care. You know, this might be something that's like, really near and dear to him. So
that was the reason I wanted to talk about it too, because I'm like, Tom Hardy, who is a serious actor, who does take this stuff seriously, him agreeing to not only come back for a third, unless it was a 3-picture deal and he's got no, choice, but him agreeing to come back for a third, but to actually now be even more a part of it, more invested in it, actually co-writing it. To me, that tells me something. Like, all right, it gives me a little bit of curiosity just to see what is it about this story, or what is it that Tom Hardy thinks he can bring that's going to make this movie special,
Right.
So, but speaking of special things, no, this is a terrible segue, but what is going on with Ezra Miller? All right. I feel like we've talked about Ezra a number of times in the last like 10 or so episodes.
And it's worse every time. And now it's like weird and creepy. And now I'm like, all right, now I can't blow it off anymore. I keep being like, let's not even talk about it. Every week you always like, there's a new thing in there, and like just like a little behind the scenes. Mario will be like, oh, he brings the Ezra Miller topic up every week because there's always some weird thing about him. And I'm always like, dude, is nothing. What else is there to say about it? Like, he did some weird stuff, but like now we can't ignore it because this new news came out, and it's like fucking like cult status weird. Like,
so for those of you living under a rock, Ezra Miller has deleted their Instagram. But they did that after posting some really strange posts alluding to being in an alternate universe and how they cannot be touched because they're in another dimension. And they were just recently served papers by some like Native American reservation. And there's just the things are getting batshit off the rails.
He's apparently he's like grooming like a young woman or something like that. And like he abused the parents and like kidnapped her, and like now like they can't, like he stole her cell phone or something, and it's like weird. There was a thing where he tried to share a bed with them. They were like 14 years old, and a chaperone like was like, nah, you can't do that. It's like really weird, like all the details, but it's like
things are taking some bad turns.
Person needs like help. They're obviously having like a mental break. It's I don't even want to like we laugh about it a little bit, but like I don't even want to be. There's one thing when you're just kind of like doing crazy stuff, but like now it's like you're harming people and like saying really weird, outlandish stuff, and it like reeks of like someone who's like going through like a paranoid schizophrenic break or like some like severe like bipolar mania. Wrong. And it's because like I've like known some people that are like kind of close to me that have had these kind of issues before, and it's like it's disturbing. So now it's like, I don't know. Now we really do have to talk about like what happens with this Flash film. I was like, they could ignore it, but like now it's weird.
And it's just like, I wish them well. I wonder where their handlers are, which I've mentioned in the past. Usually actors with any kind of profile, they've got people in their lives. They've got managers, they've got agents, they've got people who are working with them to like get them the help they need or to keep them out of trouble or keep their head above water. Where is Ezra Miller's support team? Where are the people who are going to be there to stop them from sinking deeper and deeper into whatever this craziness is? And then, now, and that's the most important part, their health and getting them straight before they either hurt someone else or themselves. But now if we're going to talk about it just strictly from the movie standpoint, it's really strange because everything I'm hearing about how the film is testing is that it's a really good movie and that it's going to be like a great step forward for DC on film. And it's going to finally kind of move us past this weird, awkward limbo stage, this slow moving reboot that's been going on for the last 6 years. We're going to finally move into the next phase of things with this freaking Flash movie. But what happens now if you've got a star that's completely, off the reservation, and you can't even have them promote it.
Yeah, like you think they could do press? Like I don't know. Like
I think about what happened with West Side Story, where Ansel Elgort has some old accusations from social media against him, so he didn't go out and promote West Side Story at all. And I'm like, well, what happens when you're the star of the movie? I mean, he was the star. He's Tony in West Side Story, right? Ezra Miller is the Flash. The Flash. What are they going to do? No, I mean, again, it's not as important as this person figuring out what's going on with themselves and getting that sorted out. But this issue with the movie, it's if I'm an executive at that studio, I'm very anxious right now. And I'm hoping that between now and June 25th, thankfully we have a year, Miller can either get on the rails or at least stay out of the headlines for long enough to not damage this thing that they have so much writing on, because this Flashpoint movie really is going to be like the linchpin that helps complete the pivot into whatever the future of DC on film is. Black Adam's going to do a lot of it, but Flash is going to be a major turning point.
And I was gonna say, like, as we've seen, like, so, like, obviously, like, they're saying, like, we can't reshoot the movie. He's the main character. He's in it. But even from the few screenshots we've seen, if you obviously, I'm sure, unless you live under a rock, like, there's like 3 or 4 Barry Allens played by Ezra Miller in this movie. So it's like, it's not even like you just have to reshoot. Like, there's a lot of, and he's got different hair and like different looks. So it's like,
and he's
apparently in the movie, like
they are apparently in like every scene. That was one of the things I read in the report on this.
And there's 4 of him.
It's such a mess. It's such a mess. I hope they figure it out. I hope Miller gets their head on straight. I hope nobody gets hurt or further sort of, messed with or otherwise abused by Miller while they're on this downward spiral. But it's troublesome. But now we're going to move into some listener questions, things that y'all have sent in to the Fanboy Podcast at gmail.com. So in the spirit of our listener questions, we're going to go right to Mr. Kyle Lehnen. Lehnen? I don't know, Kyle. Let me know if I'm saying it right. Okay. So he said, hello, fellas. Great listen. Would the Batgirl have to be pushed? Oh, wait, I'm reading the wrong Kyle email. Sorry about that, Kyle. All right. This is the right Kyle email.
Yes.
I answered that one like 2 months ago. So I'm like, am I having my own psychotic break right now? Okay. Kyle Lehnen has asked, will the events of Black Adam bleed over into the Shazam sequel? How tied together will the 2 films be? Well, I like that question. Of course, we don't know for sure, but we can speculate, Brett. So let's go ahead and speculate, because I was recently reminded of something. Maybe, Brett, you didn't even know this, possibly. Let's see. Am I reminding you or am I breaking news to you that at a certain point, Shazam, the script for the first Shazam movie, was going to contain the origins for both Shazam and Black Adam. It was going to attempt to introduce both characters. Did you know that, Brett?
I think I do remember hearing these little inklings.
Okay.
Yes.
So originally it was going to be one story featuring the 2 of them. And then they decided we want to actually split these up into 2 separate stories. So with that in mind, right, we've gotten our Shazam origin, and now we're about to get our Black Adam origin. And I feel like the logical conclusion is that these 2 are going to cross paths, if not the next time around, like in Shazam 3 or maybe Black Adam 2. I'm thinking probably Black Adam 2, depending, just because of the way the releases of these films are lining up. But you do kind of have to have the sense that there are creative plans that have been discussed that involve the 2 characters interacting. This whole thing began as a story with these 2 characters, and Black Adam is most known as an antagonist to Shazam.
Right.
So I feel like, Black Adam may not include any kind of Shazam stuff except for maybe like a post-credit tease or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's what I feel like.
Yeah, there'll be like some post-credits something, But then Shazam 2 will happen, and it'll largely not include any real mention of Black Adam. But then maybe at the end of that one, that's now where they cross paths, and it ends on almost like a cliffhanger, getting you ready for Black Adam 2 or Black Adam versus Shazam or whatever it is they're planning on. That's kind of just where I think they're going. I think that there already is creative synergy between these two franchises, and I think it's only logical that after Black Adam, there'll be a tease. In Shazam 2, there'll be a tease. And then in a fourth film within this little pocket universe, we're going to have the two of them, in the same story.
Right.
Possibly with Superman, like certain iconic stories have attempted to do in the past. Then we got another listener question from Oshri. Oshri, yes. my man, we miss you. We got to put together the Fanboy Podcast movie screening one of these months. Yeah, we haven't done a watch party in a while. But Oshri wrote to us about Kenobi, and it sounds like he's not really loving his trip so far through the series. He wrote us an email after episode 4, just kind of generally venting about the show, that there's things that he likes, but there's things to him are like chalk or like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
Namely the performance of young Leia. And in general, he seems worried, similar to you, Brett, that kind of like with Boba Fett, they might be missing the boat here with these characters. They're not really giving them the type of spotlight or the type of story that fans perhaps may have been waiting all these years to see. And I guess, that's how Oshri's feeling. And I'm just curious, full disclosure, I have not had a chance to catch up on the series. So I know you're ahead of me, but the plan is for next week, after the finale of Kenobi takes place, we will be recording and we will do a kind of long form discussion on all of these final, few episodes. But for now, Brett, how are you feeling? You've gone through 5 episodes of this series.
Yeah.
Is Kenobi letting you down, or is Kenobi hitting the spot?
No, for me, it's hitting the spot. And, Oshri, I share definitely, I think we have a similar feel about the Book of Boba Fett. It definitely, that one didn't exactly hit for me, except for, like I said, those 2 Mandalorian episodes that were just kind of stuck in the middle. Those things were like 2 thumbs up for me. And Boba Fett as a whole, though, didn't really do it for me. Obi-Wan is working for me. And it seems like for you, there's a lot of parts that you're enjoying, but like the whole, doesn't seem to be hitting for you. I will come along with you. I think, I don't know, there's parts where I think the young Leia actress is really nailing it. And there are definitely some parts where I feel, it's not that great. There's been some like little weird things. Some of the action scenes seem a little like there's something like the pacing or like they're a little slow or something. I don't know what it is. So it just kind of depends from like scene to scene for me. Now, these comments were as of episode 4. By the time you hear this, you may have seen episode 5. And I think for me, episode 5 did a great deal of, without any spoilers. I don't want to spoil it for Mario or anything like that. Episode 5 laid a lot of nice stuff in there that I think really did justice to some of our characters. And there was definitely some Leia in that episode, but not as much. I like that they kind of backed off a little bit. She was important in it, but it wasn't like as much as she's been in like the other episodes. So, I'm actually curious for you to comment again, shoot us another email and let us know. I guess maybe next week after you watch like finish the series, or at least like let you see what you think after having seen episode 5, because definitely I feel like there was some justice served there for some characters.
Right on. See, for me, through the 3 episodes I have watched, I'm not being let down by the show at all. I'm being fed quite well as a Star Wars fan. That's how I'm feeling. But I'll let you know how I feel after seeing 4, 5, and 6. But one show that I have been watching and I'm fully caught up on, as are you, is Superman and Lois. So we're going to be wrapping up this episode with a long-form discussion on the last 3 episodes that have aired so far of Superman and Lois. There are 2 left in season 2, so we're ramping up. We're heading towards the season 2 finale. And the remainder of this episode will be dedicated towards dissecting the last 3 episodes. So if you are not someone who's watching Superman and Lois, I don't know what is the matter with you, but now is a fair point to jump off of episode 153 of the Fanboy. And thank you for listening. And we hope you have liked or rated or reviewed the show by now and told your friends about us. And now, without further preamble, let's talk about Superman and Lois. So,
yes, let's.
After those recent hiatus, there have been 3 episodes since we've come back, and they've covered a lot of ground. So let me just ask you, just generally speaking, through these last 3 episodes, how are you feeling about where season 2 is headed?
Yeah, I'm loving season 2. I really like the threats that they set up for Superman. I love all the Bizarro World stuff. Yeah, it's been really good. This is gonna be hard for me to actually go back 3 episodes. I don't know if I remember. You might have caught up more recently because I've been watching as they've been airing. But I think what was the last one we talked about? Did we talk about we talked about the reveal that he revealed himself to Lana as Superman.
And that was like
that was the last one.
Yeah,
that was right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been interesting to navigate. That relationship has changed quite a bit since that reveal, and it's trickling down and affecting the family and the kids in a way, and Lois as well. It's really having a lot of ramifications in their personal life, which is interesting outside of the super threats that are going on. But I'm really digging it. Allie,
that was gonna be my question, Allie. Now that we've had all these questions the whole season, what is this Allie thing gonna lead to? Is it gonna live up to this threat that they keep talking about? What does this mean? The merging and the thing. So now we've finally gotten to see some Allie. What were you gonna say?
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, she's a little what's the word? She's a little mustache twirly. I think a little bit, and I still don't. I kind of get her end game, but I'm still not like 100% understanding like why she's doing all this. So that's been maybe like if I had to give like a little nitpick, a little thing, and she's just kind of just always just doing the God float around. With,
she just did a lot.
So and some of the like the more like drama-y. It's interesting this season. It's like they kind of just pivoted all like the human drama onto like Lana and her family almost. Like a lot of that is there, and a little more melodramatic kind of stuff, which I could maybe do a little less with. That's a testament to the writers, just because I just find Clark and Lois and the kids so interesting that I sometimes don't want to like part ways with them, but I understand why they have to like do that and balance it out, and but the overall. Like I said, really enjoying it. This most recent episode I just watched before and finished right before we started recording leaves things in a really interesting position for the final 2 episodes. So
yeah, well, for me, just in terms of general things, there's so much brilliant Superman mythologizing happening on this show and reinventing of the Superman myth and little tweaks and things that are hark back to the past. Like, I'm so in love. So, okay, the Allie thing, her merged self essentially becoming a version of the Superman villain Parasite. I didn't see that coming. To me, I've always, and they actually used the verbiage this time in case anyone missed it in the most recent episode. It's like, and now she's developed like a parasite where she can suck, the energy out of Superman, or whatever. And I'm like, and that's one of Superman's most well-known villains. He's like a mini boss. I've always felt like he's never been compelling enough to be the main thing. But Parasite's always been a Superman villain. So Allie becoming some version of that, I think, is really cool. This stuff where in Superman's absence, you have heroes rising up in his place. It happened briefly when he went to Bizarro World and was there for a month, and we saw Superboy and Steel step up, right? But now it seems to be on the verge of happening again, where we're going to get to it, but he has no powers at the end of the most recent episode. And they seem to be teasing that Steel and his daughter and Jordan are going to be having to step up and fill Superman's shoes. And that's perfect. There's a synergy there. There's a connection there to the Death of Superman storyline, because when in the Death of Superman storyline, that is when Steel rose to fill the vacuum of Superman. That's when there was the new Superboy who was premiered, when his little leather jacket and all that sort of stuff. But yes, that's not Jordan Kent, but there was a Superboy who rose up in the vacuum of a Superman who can't help us anymore. So I just love those little things where like it's reminiscent of older stories, but there's a spin on it. There's it's just it pushes the mythology in a new sort of direction. And then even Clark and Lana's relationship in this series is phenomenal to me and kind of groundbreaking when it comes to Superman in general, to the way it's been handled in the past. Because when we return from hiatus and finally get to see Lana's thoughts on finding out this secret, and we go later on in that episode into a flashback into what happened, we basically learn that Clark came back to Smallville after deciding he was going to be Superman and disappearing for a time to prepare for that mission. He came back to Smallville to get his girl back. He came back to Smallville expecting that Lana would be there and they could hopefully pick up where they left off. And when he gets there, there's Lana having moved on now with Kyle. So that's interesting to kind of look at Clark's adult life through that vantage point of actually he wanted to end up with Lana. His plan A was Lana Lang. She moved on. He ends up in Metropolis. He meets someone else, and thankfully it's Lois, and it's incredible with Lois. But that sort of twist on things, I think, is interesting.
That was really
I've never seen Clark, portrayed as Lana being his main love that he hopes to be with, and that the reason it ends is because she goes and marries someone else. It almost reminded me of like Superman Returns. We're talking about things that are similar but different. He returned from being randomly away to find that his love interest had found a new man. So I thought that was a very interesting sort of twist on the mythology too. And in general, I just love what the series is doing with taking Superman tropes, taking established bits of Superman lore, but putting their own sort of unique twist and spin on it. And to me, it's so exciting. It makes it so fresh. It makes it so I have no real idea where they're going next, what they're going to pull from next. And it's so cool to see. But now, let's break down a little bit, what came out of the first episode back from the break. So after Clark revealed himself to Lana, her reaction, it threw her for a loop, right? It threw her for a loop. And ultimately, she made the decision to cut the Kents out of her life. And I don't think anyone saw that coming, But with that in mind, I feel like one of the big themes of this series so far through 2 seasons, I think one of the big themes has been the cost of secrets, the weight and cost of having a double life and what that means. And that excites me, Brett, because as Superman fans, I feel like we've always just taken for granted that he's got a double life, that he pretends to be someone else half the time, and that he's got to lie to a lot of the people that actually mean the most to him. We've just taken for granted. That's just part of the mythology, from 1938, this guy's a mild-mannered reporter. We've never really given any thought to the idea of, but what happens with those secrets? And what toll does that take on your relationship to those around you when you can't be fully yourself with them? And in season 1, they explore that a lot with the Sons, with the cost it was having on Clark's family life, suddenly having this double life, and Lois is can't really keep the secret as well anymore because the kids they're getting stronger and older, and they're getting more aware of things, and Jordan's developing powers. The cost of secrets to me has been something that even came back up now with this, because as we try to understand why Lana cuts the Kents out, one of the things is she doesn't want to tell her daughter about this because this could put her daughter in danger. Because it's not just about, you know, even if Sarah wants to keep the secret forever, that's an incredible burden now to know that you have this secret that keeps an entire family potentially at risk and yourself at risk for you being associated with these people. And I feel like we've never seen the Superman myth approach this way. We've never seen a dissection of the cost of double lives and secrets. And even Kyle's living his own thing because he was living a double life for a time, and then it ended and he thought he got away with it, but ultimately it came back to bite him. And Lana found out, and now he's paying the price and he's going through his own arc through that. But a lot of the series, I feel like a recurring thing has been the cost of secrets and keeping yourself from your loved ones and not being your full self with the people who know you best, and how dangerous that can be and how unfair that can be. So, you know, I know there's been a lot of drama with the Lang family, or whatever the married name is, Kyle
Cushings, I think, right?
Yeah, the Cushings, but I feel like it's been for a good cause. I think it's been all part of a very interesting sort of dissection of a part of the Superman lore that usually just kind of gets ignored, which is the cost of double lives and secrets.
Yeah.
You know,
what an interesting challenge for Superman. Like,
yeah,
that's how you challenge him. You know, when the guy who can, you know, punch through everything and punch his way out of any situation, technically, like, that's how you challenge him and keep him compelling. Like, so that, you know, again, showing the writers that, you know, really know how to write a Superman story. And it is really possible. It is possible to have a good Superman story.
Yes.
So,
and then there have been so many great like Superman moments scattered throughout, but how about him taking Jordan to the North Pole? And
I was going to bring that up. That was such a great sequence. His flight, his flight sequence, learning how to fly, and I loved how they did it. There was even a funny little Star Wars joke in there, where he said, "This is where I do it." He goes,
I call it the Kessel Run.
He goes, "What's that?" And he was just like, "Oh," and it was great.
I just want you to know that, like, I'm going to sound like such an exaggerator or such a sap, but I almost cried tears of joy when he said that, because the idea that we're establishing a Superman who's a Star Wars geek.
I love that. Clark's nerdy. I love that. It's so good.
Clark Kent making a Star Wars reference and being upset his son doesn't know it. That spoke so to my soul that I was like, oh, wow. The people writing this are writing this for me. That's how it feels sometimes.
So after, you know, Jordan, he falls down like the big giant, you know, valley, and he's about to hit the floor, and then he just thrusts his arms out and he goes, and it was great. They had the little musical cue, and then you know, he flies back up, and then Clark notices him. He's like, you're not slowing down. He's like, you gotta learn how to slow down. So he saves him. But when they land, the look on Clark's face when he was just like, and the jumping was so great. It was heartwarming. It was such an awesome moment, because he was just like so proud of his son, and like it was just, you know, whatever. You just fucking his first flight, you know, and he got the shit. It wasn't, you know, when Clark did it, it was like by himself. You know what I mean? And like he got with his son, and it was just really nice. It was a really, really well done moment. Really cool.
I love when we get like the Superman version of regular father moments. You know what I mean? Because that moment of jumping up and down with your son, like that could have happened, you know, in real life. That'll happen on a baseball field when your son gets hit
a home run
or whatever. But the Superman version of it is you just flew. But you know, but like, you know, in general, the Superman version of father things, I love a great deal. And they do a lot of that on the show too. Now they kind of get serious a little bit. There was a scene with Jonathan that really touched me in the latest episode also. Remember, earlier on this season, when Clark found out about what Jonathan was doing with the XK, he came down on him real hard. And we got to see Clark Kent, you know, use the dad voice and really come down on him.
The disciplinarian.
Yeah, but this time we got the part B, the bookend to that, where essentially he explains to Jonathan, like, I would love, as your father, it's so hard for me to let you make mistakes. I want to basically shield you from everything. I want to make sure that you don't, go through anything, but I also know that you have to learn and you're going to make mistakes, and I'll be here whenever you do. And I'm like, what a perfect, that's how Superman would parent. Because that is so many fathers, parents in general, I feel, we feel that way. We feel this helplessness where with your kids, you wish that there was something you could say that would make them avoid certain pitfalls, or make them avoid their first heartbreak, or make them avoid their first painful issue. You always want to try to give them that one bit of advice that makes them avoid stuff. But at the end of the day, power, and you realize they have to learn from their mistakes. They're gonna fall down, and they're gonna go through a lot of this stuff, whether you help them or not. And you just have to stand back and be there to help them pick up the pieces, and that's it. And Superman, basically, Clark approaching it from that vantage point of like, you're going to make mistakes, but I'll be here. That was just, to me, that's that. On top of that too, like, we're talking about the Superman version of regular father things. Superman, more than any other father, could probably do a really good job of insulating his sons from ever really dealing with any real hardship. If he really wanted to, and use his abilities and be really hands-on, he could make sure his sons are always just fine. So for him, it's even more of that helplessness of like, I want to help you not end up in dark places, but I have to forcibly stop myself and let you live your life. And I just want you to know that no matter what happens, I'll be here for you.
Yeah,
I love
that was a really good moment, really well acted moment. Tyler was it Hoechlin? He's just really good. He's really good. He gets the character. He's really good. He's doing everything he can with every bit of dialogue and writing he gets from that writing team there, and he's just knocking it out of the park. He's really good.
And the other big thing that was established here was that Tal-Rho is now out and about, and we don't know where he is on the main Earth of the show. So that's interesting. But aside from that, we also saw that the Tal-Rho in the Bizarro world also had a noble heart. And I think that's all interesting, because it seems like regardless of which Earth, the writers or whomever are trying to let us know, like, Tal-Rho at his core is good. There's a nobility and a goodness to him that in both versions of Earth. In one, he woke up towards the very end and realized, okay, I failed my brother on this Earth and he's dead, but I'm not going to fail this brother, and he stops Allie and all that sort of stuff. We already know about Tal-Rho on the main Earth, who he seems like he's been on a redemption arc for a while now anyway, and they completed that 3 episodes ago. Clark went to see him. He got him out of the prison stuff. He reconnected with Lois. He apologized for his mistakes. There was an interesting tension between him and Lois, but even Lois seemed to understand by the end that he's not going to hurt us. He's already saved us like 3 times. Like, it's interesting.
He helped him destroy the pendant. They teamed up, and I really, that's something too. That was something I really enjoyed seeing. Like that was a really cool. It's been done very well.
And yet now,
he's going to have to come back into the picture. There's 2 episodes left, so he's going to have to come back in at the end here.
Although a part of me wonders too if they're going to set up like, what if he goes to the Bizarro world and he tries to be like the Superman, the savior of that world? Like at the end, when this is all over, like,
that could be somehow pretty cool. Yeah.
Right. Like maybe over the, but then again, would he have powers there? Or since it's inverted, he'd be human.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Or he'd be a lot weaker. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. But I feel like
they little thing for him. Yeah.
Right. It'd be interesting if he could go there and use, what abilities he would have to try to, do good in that world, since there is no Superman, there is no Tal-Rho anymore, because Allie killed that Tal-Rho at the end of one of these episodes. And presumably Allie won't be around by the end of the season. So it'll be like a power vacuum in the Bizarro land. So maybe that's where Tal-Rho ends up. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But all in all, I'm hooked into this. Even the stuff with Lucy and Lois and General Lane, I felt like a lot of that is hitting a lot of the right emotional notes for me. And all in all, I can't wait for the final 2 episodes of season 2. The show keeps moving along and keeps getting me more and more excited for where they're going next. So, last thing before we wrap up, you mentioned the musical
motif,
the music cue, the motif that they gave Jordan. So you heard it this time, right?
Yes.
Because they played it also when he was doing that hooded Superboy rescue of Kyle like 4 or 5 episodes ago, where they've already established like a Superboy theme, which makes me wonder one of two things. Are they going? Does this mean that as the series wears on, they're going to continue to beef up his role to where he is a Superboy? It's Superman and Lois and Superboy. Right. Or in this world that we live in of expanded universes and spin-offs and sequel series and stuff, would they maybe be considering a Superboy show for Jordan when Superman and Lois has run its course? Because they gave him his own freaking superhero theme here, and it seems like, maybe they're setting something up there. What would you rather? I'm just at this stage of the game. Would you rather to see a continued expansion and importance of Jordan Kent's role, or would you like him to get his own series in some short amount of time from now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to just see his role grow within this show, and because I really hope this show has like a nice run.
Yeah, me too.
And hopefully, like, also, like, it doesn't need to go on for 10 seasons. Like, if like by season 5 they're like, we're running out of ideas, like maybe they'll just wrap up at season 5 or like season 4 or something like that. That's cool with me. But I don't know if they did a spinoff. I don't know. It's weird now because now it's like I'm so attached to Tyler Hoechlin, so it's like I want my Superman, and you can do Superboy. I mean, I'll be honest, just from like if I really want to like dig down, I don't know that I like him as an actor. I think the kid who plays Jonathan is a little bit stronger of an actor than Jordan. The kid who plays Jordan personally. So I don't know if he could like carry a whole show, and then if he's still gonna be like younger, is it just gonna be like young Superman going through high school kind of thing? And then it's like at that point, like you might lose the relatability for me at least, because I'm fucking in my mid 30s. By the time they have like a season 5, I'm gonna be freaking 40. So it's like at that point, I don't know if I'm ready to like watch the high school drama anymore. So
I got you.
The little bits I get in here is enough, and helps round out the show. So yeah, but I'm happy to like just keep him in this show and keep showing like the challenges that Clark has with raising him, and like maybe we're still seeing definitely. Especially in this most recent episode, Jonathan still feeling a little left out of everything. They went to go. Yeah. He was like, "Yeah, we went to a flying training." He's like, "Oh, cool. Well, I just stood here and did all the chores by myself. So awesome. I'm gonna go take a shower." Yeah, there's definitely that. I wonder where that road's headed. If like there's really gonna be a big. I mean, there's been a little bit of butting heads, but I wonder if that's really gonna snowball into something. Crazy. So. We'll see. So yeah, I'm happy with the show and let that go and let that evolve. And then when it's run its course, it's run its course. I don't need a spinoff. All right. They'll want to do a spinoff, of course, but I don't need one.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I'm with you too. I hope this thing runs for I want the 10 seasons, Brett. All right. So I hope this thing runs a good long time and they don't water it down by spinning it off or focusing more on, expanding the Superboy lore and forgetting about Superman. No. So yeah, I hope that they don't, but just the fact giving him his own theme and this more focus lately just has me wondering. I'm like, somebody over there is thinking about a Superboy show. Somebody.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. But right now I'm thinking it's time to wrap this puppy up. So everyone, this has been episode 153 of the Fanboy Podcast. Brett, if people wanted to find you and yell at you for your opinions between now and next week's show, how could they find you?
You can get me on Twitter at SuperBrettCon, or you could also just email the fanboypodcast at gmail.com. Mario and I both have access, so we can read your ramblings there as well.
capital idea. And I am, you can find me over on the Twitter at Superman on Film, all one word. And until next week, be kind
and stay fanboy.
Adios.